This is the AHSAA Weekly, your inside look at everything happening with the Alabama High School Athletic Association, presented by America's First Federal Credit Union. I'm John Holder. Coming up on this week's program, we're going to speak with the Director of Officials for the Alabama High School Athletic Association, Ken Washington. Also coming up on this week's show, we'll preview the AHSAA Game of the Week live Friday night here on WOTM. It's a matchup in Class 5A between the Parker Thundering Herd and the Alexandria Valley Cubs. Frank Warren, head coach at Parker, Todd Ginn, head coach at Alexandria, joining us this week to preview the game. We'll also take a look at David Holtzford's highlights of games from the first round of the state playoffs from all across the state of Alabama. And we'll go through the brackets, give you all the final scores and the second round matchups as the AHSAA state football playoffs roll on this week. All of that and more on this week's edition of the AHSAA Weekly, presented by America's First Federal Credit Union.
Every bank has their own app, but it's just that, theirs. At AmFirst, our app was made for you, so you can personalize your dashboard, pay your bills, and redeem points for rewards you'll love. Get the app made for you at AmFirst.
This week on the AHSAA Weekly, we are joined by Ken Washington, Director of Officials for the Alabama High School Athletic Association. He joins us from the AHSAA in Montgomery. Ken, glad to have you with us once again here on the AHSAA Weekly.
Hey, John, how are you? Glad to be here.
Glad to be here, Ken. Glad to have you with us as always. Always interesting, always some really good information because, Ken, I think a lot of folks out there, they may think they know a lot about the sports themselves, the coaching and all that. Everyone's an expert there, but the officiating is a different animal. There are a lot of things I think the average fan out there doesn't know about with officiating. We want to talk about some of those things with you this week. We're transitioning now, the fall sports season just about over as we're now in the football playoffs, and we'll be transitioning very shortly now. We've got basketball games starting this week. So let's talk about that transition now from fall sports to the winter sports, because officiating is still huge and you still have great needs. We talked about the needs in football and things like that, but there's a great need for basketball and some of the winter sports as well.
You're absolutely right, John. We are in the second round of playoffs for football, and those games are very competitive. So imagine sitting in my seat trying to make sure we got officials for those games, and coaches are calling me, wanting to know who's on the game and where they're from and things like that. Everybody's on pins and needles. And then at the same time, you know, you have registration going on in basketball. And we opened up last Thursday with our first contest, and heard some good things about that. Hadn't had any real problems there. My main concern is in these sports where officials are starting their registration process, but they're not finishing, and we can definitely use officials, John.
I know that's a big issue in this day and time. Is everything that involves labor, every business out there is seeing a shortage of trying to find workers. And it's the same way with officiating. You're trying to find officials, and that is true, I think, in basketball coming up right now. As a matter of fact, you alluded to that. That is one of the things that you're trying to do right now, is find some basketball officials around the state.
And we are. Anybody that ever played the game, coached the game, parents that have played back in the day, those will make good officials, and we could definitely use those officials to help us cover these games and these contests.
And there's a great opportunity there. There's for folks to go out there. If you love basketball, as you mentioned there, great opportunity to be around it. Basketball is a little bit different because you're not out in the elements. You're not out in the heat. You're not in the cold. You're in a nice gym. And it's a great sport. And I thought there's a great opportunity because with basketball in a given night, you can do 2 or 3 games and earn some pretty good money doing that.
Oh, absolutely. We always start off with the girls and boys play at the same time, and then we have some others as well when we're having those games.
Ken, we appreciate it very much. Appreciate you being with us here on the AHSAA Weekly. Thank you for that great information. And we want to encourage folks to go to AHSAA.com. You'll find out some good information about officiating there. Contact your local officials organization and sign up to be an official. Ken, thank you so much for spending time with us and giving us good insight here on the AHSAA Weekly.
All right, thanks, John.
Ken Washington, Director of Officials for the Alabama High School Athletic Association, our guest again this week here on the AHSAA Weekly.
Looking for a perfect checking account? Don't waste your time. No minimum balance, no monthly fees, and a convenient app. Now you could try and find that at a bank, or you could save yourself the trouble by checking with us.
Back on the AHSAA Weekly, we continue to preview the big 5A matchup in the second round of the playoffs coming up this week between the A.H. Parker Thundering Herd out of Birmingham and the Alexandria Valley Cubs. The game will be at Lou Scales Stadium. Death Valley and Alexandria Friday night live right here for a statewide audience on WOTM as the AHSAA Game of the Week. We are joined by the head coach of the Parker Thundering Herd, Coach Frank Warren. Coach, glad to have you with us on the AHSAA Weekly this week.
I'm glad to be here. It's a big game, like you said. It's a great second round matchup. It's usually could be a third round matchup or a fourth round matchup. So it's going to be a good game.
Really is. Your team coming in at 10-1, ranked in the top 10 in the final poll. Alexandria 11-0, ranked in the top 10 in the final poll. You're right, Coach. We don't get this much in the second round. Tell us about your football team. Had a win over Boaz last week in the first round, 31-21. You played a tough schedule in a tough region. Tell us about this 2021 Thundering Herd team.
Oh man, we've been grinding out summer, man. These kids been putting in the work since June. We got some good players to be this good. I'm blessed to coach some of these athletes that we have. We've been taking the game one at a time since the beginning of the year. And like you said, we've been in touch Region 5 with Pleasant Grove, Rams, and Fairfield. And a couple of non-region games with AHSAA was a pretty tough team in 4A. We've been taking one game at a time. The Boaz game was a pretty good game. Boaz, they had a good game plan. They wanted to slow the game down to keep us off the field, in which they did some stuff well. And we get a couple of guys back off the injury list this week, so hopefully we're on full go this week.
Folks around the state of Alabama, as they're tuning into this game from Death Valley on Friday night, what are some players? Who are some guys they need to be looking for from Parker?
First of all, I got two running backs that's over 1,000 yards. Khalif Keefe, a junior, he's 1,400 yards. Jawan Minifield, he's over 1,000. And Milton Shelton, probably one of the best athletes in the States. He won a track star, actually, but he's an awesome quarterback for us. Leading as a receivers, Brian Adams and Joshua Schroes and Carl Pitts. And I got to have O-line. You got two 1,000-yard rushers, man. It's led by Amar Harris and Orlando Lewis, senior guys. And defensively, in the secondary, Monty Henley come along as a junior. Charles Gray anchored with the Mike linebacker. And a couple of sophomores, Jeremiah Bean and Philip Davis in the interior. So, and a couple of bookends, Daniel Harris and Ashton Ellison on the outside, 6'5", 6'6" apiece. So, we got some guys all over the board that's been playing well, and I hope a lot of people get to see them across the state this week.
Absolutely, they will, Coach. You got a great football team. As we said, we don't get this very often in the second round, a 10-1 versus an 11-0, but we'll get that coming up in the 5A second round playoffs on Friday night from Lou Scales Stadium in Alexandria. Parker and the Alexandria Valley Cubs. Coach, thank you so much for spending time with us here on the AHSAA Weekly.
I appreciate y'all for having me.
Frank Warren, head coach of the A.H. Parker Thundering Herd out of Birmingham, headed east on I-20 to Calhoun County to take on the Alexandria Valley Cubs on Friday night live here on WOTM.
Every bank has their own app, but it's just that, theirs. At AmFirst, our app was made for you, so you can personalize your dashboard, pay your bills, and redeem points for rewards you'll love. Get the app made for you at AmFirst.
We are back on the AHSAA Weekly. Coming up this week, Friday night, 7 o'clock live here on WOTM, is the statewide AHSAA Game of the Week in the second round of the Class 5A state playoffs, and it ought to be a great game. The A.H. Parker Thundering Herd from Birmingham traveling to Lou Scales Stadium, Larry Ginn Field at Death Valley in Alexandria to take on the undefeated Alexandria Valley Cubs. The head coach of the Valley Cubs, Coach Todd Gins, joins us at this time. Coach, glad to have you with us here on the AHSAA Weekly.
Always good to talk to you, John.
Coach, same here. Let's talk about this game coming up before a statewide audience on Friday. There's not a lot of history between Parker and Alexandria, but what history there is very recent. Almost a year to the day, you're going to be playing them again. You played them down in Birmingham last year in the second round, and now they come to your place this year in the second round. Your thoughts on the Parker team?
Well, they are. I think everybody's had an eye on that region from the get-go this year, and just watching film on them. Very athletic, very aggressive on both sides of the ball. Really glad we get to play them here this time, and just I think I speak for our community and our players. We're ready. That's why you play high school football to play in big games, and this will be a fun challenge this Friday.
Coach, after seeing them last year in person and playing them, you won the game 32-21. Watching film of them this year, what's different maybe about this Parker team than last year?
I think last year they had a more of a stand in the pocket type big quarterback that liked to spread it around on offense, and this year the quarterback's more of a he still throws it really well, throws the deep ball well, and he's got a good arm, but he's really, really good with his feet. So that stood out to me immediately when we've seen him play in person, and of course we've seen him on film. Stood out to me immediately how good he is, once the pocket breaks down and he tries to escape. They've got two really good running backs. One's like a scat type back, and then the other one is a move-in kid that's a bigger back that's really having a good year. And so just those in the backfield, having the quarterback and then both of those running backs that come in for each other, you got to stop their run first. And then they've got some capable receivers outside, and he throws the ball well. I just think they're really balanced. Their offense reminds me a lot of ours. They're balanced. They can they can throw the ball, they can run it. Defensively, they're just so athletic. They're just, a lot of plays, you watch them on film and you see a lot of things that are open, but they're not open long. You know what I mean? When you watch a kid break free, and instead of a 30, 40-yard gain, it's a 10 or 15-yard gain, and when you got that kind of speed on the defensive side of the ball, what we have to do offensively is sustain drives, sustain and stay ahead of the chains and do the things the right way to not get penalties and get ourselves in trouble.
Coach, your team 11-0, ranked number 3 in the final ASWA poll. It will be a great treat, I think, for folks around the state. Many fans of high school football have heard about Death Valley and Alexandria, and folks who are around the state will get a taste of that here on WOTM on Friday night. Thank you for joining us. Best wishes to you and your football team in this second-round playoff game against Parker on Friday night.
I appreciate it. Thanks for all y'all do.
Todd Ginn, head coach of the Alexandria High School Valley Cubs. Alexandria and Parker, the AHSAA Game of the Week, coming up on Friday night, 7 o'clock, live here on WOTM.
Looking for a perfect checking account? Don't waste your time. No minimum balance, no monthly fees, and a convenient app. Now you could try and find that at a bank, or you could save yourself the trouble by checking with us.
Time on the AHSAA Weekly, presented by America's First Federal Credit Union, for David Holzford's highlights. David Holzford of the Alabama High School Athletic Association, putting together highlights from state playoff football games from all across the state of Alabama. From first-round action, we will begin in Class 6A action with Hillcrest of Tuscaloosa taking on Carver of Montgomery. Hillcrest leading 6-0 in the first quarter when Ethan Crawford takes the snap, and he's going to throw it to A.J. Myers, who dives for the catch, scoring the touchdown as Hillcrest wins this one 56-6. Next, coming up, it is Saraland hosting Wetumpka. Spartan running back Sante Williams Jr. taking the handoff and running 80 yards for the touchdown. Saraland would go on to win this game by a score of 37-7, the Spartans over the Wetumpka Indians. Mountain Brook hosting Southside out of the Gadsden area. Mountain Brook Jr. Jackson Beatty takes the opening kickoff back 65 yards for a score, and the Spartans never look back as they win this one 63-0. Number 3 Mountain Brook beating the Southside Crimson Panthers from Etowah County. Opelika hosting Northridge, leading 14-0 in the first quarter when Opelika hands it off to Caden Cooper, and he is going to take it 54 yards for the touchdown as Opelika wins this one over Northridge of Tuscaloosa 45-20. A Lee County team beating a Tuscaloosa County team at Bulldog Stadium in Opelika. Viger taking on West Blockton. This is quarterback Anthony Mix Jr. rolling out. Throws it 41 yards to a diving Brennan May Jordan for the Viger score. And then later it's Jacory Barnes. He is going to take the handoff and run through multiple tacklers on his way into the end zone as the Wolves win this one over the Choctaws 40-0, the final score. Next, we have Auburn hosting Baker High School, round one of the 7A football playoffs. Auburn hands it off here to running back Killian Massey, who takes it 20 yards to the house for an early Auburn score. Then we take you later on in the third quarter. This is going to be Baker lining up to punt, but it is a fake. But the Hornets pull it up, and Bakari Daly, number 9 for Auburn, intercepts the pass, and this one would be all Auburn as they win this one by a final score of 39-3. Next, we have Oak Mountain traveling to Madison to take on James Clemens to kick off the playoffs last Thursday night. Quarterback Evan Smith led the Eagles with 20 carries for 240 yards rushing, including this 77-yarder that we're going to see right here. Smith completed 12 of 17 passes for 171 yards. The real hero in this game, though, was kicker Garrett Murphy. Murphy nails a 31-yard field goal as time expires on Thursday night to lift the Eagles to the second round 38-35 victory over the Jets at Madison City Stadium in Madison on Thursday night. Now we've got more 6A action coming up. Jackson Olin hosting Coleman. The Mustangs take a 7-0 lead with this 22-yard run from Cason Jones into the end zone. And the Mustangs take the early lead in the game. Later in the first half, Coleman quarterback Ryan Skinner hit Jake Doolin for a 20-yard screen pass. This is a catch and run for a touchdown to cut the lead to 8-7 after the extra point from Nate Zills. Later, trailing 14-7, Coleman found the end zone again when Ryan Skinner fakes the screen pass, finds Jamar Kay for a 50-yard touchdown with 1:26 remaining in the fourth quarter. Then in overtime, Jackson Olin throws it right here. Amarian Brown for the score. Cason Jones runs in the 2-point conversion as Jackson Olin wins this one in overtime, 22-14. Here's the 2-point conversion to kind of seal it for Jackson Olin as they win 22-14 over Coleman. More Class 6A action. Pinson Valley traveling to Muscle Shoals Friday night. Georgia Tech commit Zach Pyron completed 13 of 18 passes for 180 yards with 2 touchdowns. Pyron threw touchdown passes to Amari Thomas and also to Bori Reed. Dontavius Pritchard from Muscle Shoals, you're going to see him here in just a moment making a big play. Pinson Valley lining up to try a long field goal attempt in the game, but Muscle Shoals is going to break through and block this field goal attempt. The ball on the turf for a long time, and then finally Pritchard picks it up and returns it 70 yards for a score. This was early in the third period to tie the game up at 14-14. This was tight all the way through. The difference in the game was the Pinson Valley Indian rushing game. It would be way too strong. Michael Sharp, remember that name. Sharp finished with 147 yards rushing on 15 carries. You're seeing one of those touchdowns right there. He was not done. That made it 21-14, then tied 21-21. Sharp again with another touchdown run on the turf at Muscle Shoals as Pinson Valley wins this one at Muscle Shoals 28-21. More 6A action. The Toros from Spanish Fort taking on Calera. Spanish Fort quarterback Brendan Bird having a huge day, finishing with 193 yards and 2 touchdowns on 17 carries. He also threw for 72 yards and another score as Spanish Fort takes down Calera 41-31 to advance down in the game played on the hill, as they call it, at Spanish Fort in Baldwin County. Spanish Fort, the winner over Calera in Class 6A action. And that's David Holtzford's highlights for this week. Highlights from first round playoff action all across the state of Alabama. More of the AHSAA Weekly presented by America's First Federal Credit Union in just a moment.
Every bank has their own app, but it's just that, theirs. At AmFirst, our app was made for you, so you can personalize your dashboard, pay your bills, and redeem points for rewards you'll love. Get the app made for you at AmFirst.
Last week, the first round of the AHSAA State Football Playoffs, round number 2 coming up. Let's take you to the brackets and look at every classification, 1A through 7A. 1A in the South, Keith routed McKenzie. Notasulga beats Marengo, so it will be Notasulga and Keith this week at Orville. Then Brantley beat R.C. Hatch. It was Milry over Lochapoka. Great matchup in South Alabama, Milry at Brantley this week. Also, Maplesville and Linden. Great matchup. Linden travels to Maplesville. Linden, the defending state champion in 1A. Sweetwater beat Billingsley. Kinston won over Central of Hayneville, so Kinston travels to Sweetwater. Now as we go to the 1A North, Woodland upset Cedar Bluff. They'll be on the road again because Meek also upset Hubbard. That game will be at Arley in Winston County. Wadley, no problem with Galesville. Hubbardville beat Hackleburg. It will be Hubbardville going to Wadley. Also in the 1A North, Decatur Heritage and Raglan both winners. Raglan won on the road, so they'll be at home hosting Decatur Heritage. Pickens County, the team that was in the Super 7 last year, and Winneboro. They will be meeting at Pickens County and Reform in the 1A North. 2A in the South, Isabella and B.B. Comer. This will be a great matchup. You saw the B.B. Comer win here on WOTM. B.B. Comer travels to Isabella. Arrington and Clark County, two great teams in the South. They will play at Clark County at Grove Hill Friday night. Also in the 2A South, Lynette, the number 1 team, beating Geneva County. Luverne beat Greene County. Luverne and Lynette, tradition-rich teams at Lynette. Then Elba and Highland Home playing each other with the Highland Home win at Orange Beach. That game will be at Highland Home with the Flying Squadron. 2A in the North, Sulligent and Southeastern. They are two teams that went on the road and won. So Sulligent will be at home. Southeastern will be at home. Sulligent will be traveling into Southeastern and Blount County. Midfield beat North Sand Mountain, Cleveland over Colbert County, so it will be Cleveland traveling to Midfield. Finally, in the 2A North, Mars Hill Bible, defending state champion, winners over Sandrock. Tanner beat Lamar County. Tanner goes to Florence to face Mars Hill. And Aliceville and Spring Garden, great matchup. Those two will play at Spring Garden on Friday night. 3A in the South, Montgomery Academy and Trinity Presbyterian both won about 2 miles apart in Montgomery. They will play at MA. T.R. Miller beating Hale County, Opp over Reeltown, so it will be Opp traveling to Bruton to face T.R. Miller. In the 3A South, Montgomery Catholic in the state championship game last year, playing Bayside Academy. That game will be in Daphne at Bayside. Slocum and Hillcrest Evergreen, two winners as well. They will play each other this week at Slocum, home of the Red Tops. In the 3A North, defending champion Fife, shutting out Walter Welborn. J.B. Pennington upset Phil Campbell, so it will be Fife going to Bluntsville to take on J.B. Pennington. Sachs won, Oakman won. That game will be in Anniston at Sachs High School as Oakman travels over from Walker County. Also in the 3A North, Lauderdale County beat Vinemont. Piedmont won at Sylvania. Lauderdale County and Piedmont, two good teams at the Field of Champions in Piedmont. Ohatchee and Winfield, two more great teams in the North. They both won. It will be Ohatchee and Winfield in Marion County on Friday night. In the 4A South, American Christian beat Williamson. Jacksonville got a revenge win over Alabama Christian. Jacksonville travels to Tuscaloosa to face American Christian Friday night. Viger, probably the longest road trip in the state. They will travel to Center to take on the Cherokee County Warriors all the way in North Alabama in the South in 4A. Also in the 4A South, Hanley and Bibb County both winning. Bibb County traveling to Roanoke to take on the Tigers. St. James and Jackson, two tradition-rich programs, both winning on Friday night, so it will be Jackson coming to Montgomery to take on the St. James Trojans. 4A in the North, Madison Academy, your number 1 ranked team, will take on Priceville. Priceville will make the trip up I-65 to Madison. Northside in Tuscaloosa County and Good Hope, they will play at Northside coming up on Friday night. In the 4A North, also, Brooks of Killen, they will be at home once again hosting Randolph, having their best team in school history out of the city of Huntsville. Aniana will be at home at Gilbert Stadium as the team that represented the North last year, the Gordo Green Wave, comes to town. In the 5A South, Demopolis and Andalusia. Andalusia saw their impressive win here on WOTM. That game will be at Andalusia at UMS Wright Prep in Greenville. A lot of tradition there. Greenville travels down I-65 to Mobile to take on UMS Wright Prep. Also in the 5A South, Central of Clay County won, Faith Academy won. So Central makes the long trip from Clay County to Mobile to face Faith Academy. And what about this matchup? Defending state champion St. Paul's Episcopal, #1 ranked Pike Road, playing in Montgomery County at Pike Road Friday night. In the 5A North, Ramsey upended Gunnersville. Centerpoint wins. Ramsey and Centerpoint, an all-Metro Birmingham matchup at Centerpoint. Another Jefferson County matchup at Pleasant Grove. Leeds traveling in to face the Pleasant Grove Spartans. In the 5A North, also Russellville and Fairview. That game will be over at Russellville. And the game you'll see right here on WOTM, Alexandria hosting the Parker Thundering Herd at Death Valley in Alexandria. In the 6A South, Baldwin County and Hillcrest Tuscaloosa playing in Bay Minette at Baldwin County. Lee of Montgomery also head south. They will travel to take on Saraland in Mobile County. Also in the 6A South, long road trip here. Hueytown goes to Mobile to take on the McGill II and Yellow Jackets. Meanwhile, great rivals here. Opelika and Spanish Fort, two of the top programs in 6A, playing at Opelika at Bulldog Stadium. In the 6A North, Oxford won, Pinson Valley won. These two old rivals will play at Pinson Valley Friday night. Mountain Brook and Jackson Olin, another all-Metro Birmingham matchup. That game will be at Mountain Brook. In the 6A North, Gardendale upset #2 Hartselle. They'll take on Homewood, another all-Jefferson County matchup at Waldrop Stadium at Homewood. And then another all-Jefferson County matchup in the 6A North, Clay Chalkville hosting Briarwood Christian. 7A in the South, this is actually their quarterfinal round game. Central Phoenix City at home hosting Theodore. Enterprise and Auburn, a rematch of a regular season game. That will be at Duck Sanford Stadium in Auburn in the 7A South. In the 7A North, Oak Mountain and Thompson, Hoover and Hewitt-Trussville. It's all 7A Region 3, all rematches. Oak Mountain goes into Thompson to try to knock off the Warriors in Alabaster, and Hewitt-Trussville and Hoover rematching as well. That game will be at Hoover, and that's going to be an all 7A Region 3 quarterfinal in North Alabama, as all those teams coming out of Class 7A Region 3. That's the brackets, all the second round matchups coming up in the AHSAA State Football Playoffs, and that is going to wrap up this week's edition of the AHSAA Weekly, presented by America's First Federal Credit Union. We'll see you back here next week.